If you've got your computing history application set up according to the prior lectures, then the last thing you're waiting on me for is getting all the picture boxes in there. So you'll need to make sure you know where your pictures are. Sorry about that. My cats were not happy with each other. So you need to make sure you know where your pictures are, and we're going to put them into the project in such a manner that hopefully when you take it home with an executable file, you will be able to take all the pictures with you. So it won't give you an error when you get home. So what you have to do is make sure you've got your pictures. So I went out, I found this picture relating to Babbage, I right-clicked it, I did a save picture as, I put it on my desktop, and I think I changed the name a little bit. But then one thing you want to do is go into Paint and resize it, make it a little bit smaller. If it's a little too big, you're going to have a problem with it. So that's pretty big. So what we really need to do is resize it. When we get into Visual Basic, I think that's going to be a little too big. So I'm going to cut it down to about 70%, and that's probably good. And I'm going to save it just as Babbage on my desktop. Okay. So now I'm going to come back into Visual Studio. I'm going to open my project, Hello World, and I want to click on this Visual Studio solution. I'm going to click Open. There are several different ways we could hook this. I opened the wrong one. There are several different ways I could come into computing history. I could connect these pictures in there, but then depending on how I do the executable, where they're located, etc., I could have some problems when I run it and I'm off site. I'm not using Visual Studio. So I'm going to do a little more painful way to do it. And if you remember, this is my pick history, and I came down to the image property, and I associated the image with it, and I did the My Project Resources project resource file so it would stay with the executable. So now this picture box is specifically associated with this picture. So what you can do is you can actually, in the button, you can actually give the picture box image property the path to the different pictures. So I could come into the button for Pascal, into the code, and say, okay, set the property for the image equal to C:// or network drive S:/ blah 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 Babbage.jpg. So you could do that, but that hard coding of the path means that when you pack this up into an executable and take it home and those paths aren't the same on your home computer, you don't have the picture. So what we're going to do instead is, in order to keep the pictures with the project as a resource without worrying about where the pictures are located at any given moment in time, we're going to go back and we're going to add additional picture boxes. So pick history is always going to be associated with the abacus, right? Because that's what it is. I'm going to add a second picture box that I'm going to associate with Babbage, with that Babbage picture, and I'm going to place it and size it right over top of this one and sort of stack them in layers. And then I'm going to hide and show them based on the buttons that are being clicked. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the form and click on here, and you'll notice that in addition to the image property, there's a visible property. So visible true means yes, show the picture box. Visible false hides it. So let's experiment a little bit. We're going to change that property and we're going to run it. And when it comes up, you don't see the picture box. It's there, but it is hidden. When I change it to true, what that says is default to always showing this picture box. Okay. Now when I come in, I may want to go ahead by default and show the abacus. That's up to you. Or you can hide it. I'm going to actually hide it and set it equal to false. So when mine comes in, there won't be anything showing. So when the person clicks on the button, I'm going to double click my button to get my code window up. Not only do I need to change the label, but now I need to take pick history and I need to use the visible property just like you saw me, but I'm going to set it to true, meaning yes, show it. Show the abacus picture. So I'm going to save, come back into my form. I'm going to run, pictures hidden, voila, now it shows. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my second picture box. I just double clicked on that. It sort of dropped it over here in a weird place. I'm going to come down here while I'm working with it. Then I'll put it where I want it. The first thing I'm going to do is change the name to be a little more descriptive. And I'm going to call this Pick Babbage. Okay. And I'm going to go to the image property. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to make sure project resource file is selected. I'm going to come in. Sorry, clicking on the wrong thing. I'm going to do an import. And I put that on my desktop, so wherever you have it, you've got to find it. I believe I called it Babbage. It's a JPEG file. There it is. I'm going to say OK. So this one is, see, now this is where the resize thing comes in. So I'm going to come back to Paint so I can tell it's going to be too big. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to do maybe 50%. So really need to get it smaller. I'm going to save it. Now I'm going to come back here and refresh it by going back to my image, coming in here, import Babbage again, say OK. Now it's resized it. I sort of had to refresh it. I had to go back to the image property and sort of refresh it. Okay. So now I've got this picture. I'm going to save it. I'm going to make sure that I've turned this to visible equals false. I need them all to be hidden when I first come in, and then I will dynamically turn them on based on the button that's clicked. So now I'm going to kind of drag this up here, and I'm going to put it over top of my abacus. No, I probably could have left that picture a little bigger, but anyway. So I've stacked it. Now if I drag it, hold the cursor down and drag it, the abacus is still there. But to make it look better when I run this thing, I'm going to kind of stack them so the pictures don't look like they're jumping around. So if I had it down here and I ran it, then when I click the abacus button, the abacus picture would show up here. When I click the Babbage button, it's going to show up a little bit below where my eye expects the picture to be. And it looks bad. You can do it, it just doesn't look good. So now I'm going to go back to my abacus button. So everywhere I have pictures, I have to turn one on and turn the rest off. So I've got to make sure that Pick Babbage is invisible. So visible equals false when the abacus is true. So I don't have two pictures showing at the same time. I can't control what order people click these buttons. So if they click Babbage and Byron first and this picture shows, and then they click abacus, I need to turn this one off and show abacus and vice versa. But I also have to come in here to the Babbage button, and I have to do Pick Babbage dot visible equals true. I have to turn it on, but I have to make sure the abacus is not showing, because again, I don't know if they've already clicked the abacus button or not, so to be on the safe side, I have to turn it off. So every time I add a picture box for each of these different pictures, I'm going to have to kind of come and do this in every button. It's a pain, but I can copy and paste and just set the one I need to true and all the rest to false. And of course I need to change my lblinfo.text so you put your text in there. I just want something. So now when I run it, I come in, click the abacus, I click Babbage, and see how the pictures kind of jump because they're not the same size exactly and all that. That you can clean up later. Not the greatest, but anyway. So if they came in first and clicked, since I can't control what they click first, if they click Babbage, then I've got to make sure I hide him when I click the abacus. If they click the abacus first, I want to show the abacus and make sure that, Babbage isn't showing. So that's why I have to do that show hide stuff. So at this point, what I'm going to ask you to do is get your abacus and Babbage and Byron buttons working. Get your little text to change down here if you haven't already. And start thinking about how you can, for example, get another picture box, name it something like Pic Pascal, change the image property to whatever picture you have for Pascal, and then make it invisible using the visible property. Then come into your abacus button and add picpascal.visible equals false. Come into your Babbage and Byron button, add picpascal.visible equals false. And then come into your Pascal button, and you're going to have to set the abacus to false, the visible to false, Babbage and Byron's visible to false, but Pascal's visible to true. I know that's a lot to take in, and I know, got a shortened class time. But go ahead and think about how you're going to do that and just try it. And we'll pick up with that next week.